Let's say you are elected mayor of a large city. What is your first priority? Education? Healthcare? Free pizza for everyone? Looking for guidance, you ask an anthropologist to come by and explain what the world's first societies valued as the most important tasks of local leaders. Of course, external security, making sure that no one gets any bright ideas about coming in and stealing all your goats, is up there. However, so too is making sure that society is without crime. It turns out that crime has a massive impact on the perceived legitimacy of a government. Since you want your city government to be viewed as particularly legitimate, this is a concern of yours. Let's look at exactly what kind of impact that crime could have on your government. Like practically every society ever, there are instances of petty crime in your city. Little old ladies get their purses snatched, businessmen get their wallets lifted, and kids still get bullied for their lunch money. In fact, finding out where to draw the line between petty crime and oppressive policing is difficult. Should everyone be accompanied by a police officer everywhere they go? In that case, jaywalkers could flood jails everywhere. Still, these petty crimes build up. Sure, someone having their wallet stolen isn't likely to make the cover of a major newspaper. However, build up enough cases like that, and people very well may decide not to live in a given area. Without people living, working, or shopping in an area, the tax base gets greatly reduced. Then, there suddenly isn't enough money for basic services, like street cleaning, schools, and the police and fire departments. This invites even more crime, but now there's no money to pay police officers to fight it. Eventually, this causes a spiral effect in which crime runs out of control because there aren't resources to fight it. So you decide that one of your first actions must be to limit petty crime, even though you're still not sure about the best way to do it. Two people come in with solutions. Mr. B is first. He suggests paying his private security company $10 billion to take care of the crime in your city. This would be paid through taxes, of course. Then Mr. X comes in and suggests that you do it for $20 billion. $10 billion for Mr. B, and then $5 billion each for you and Mr. X. In other words, Mr. X is suggesting that you resort to corruption. Now, on the surface of that, to you and me, it may not make sense to do what Mr. X is recommending. However, for a corrupt figure of authority, it could be a way to make a quick $5 billion while getting the product done. After all, there is a real chance that no one would ever find out. However, this money doesn't appear from nowhere. It comes from everyone's taxes. Let's face it, people hate paying taxes. However, people do recognize that they get a great deal from their taxes. Schools, roads, police, military protection, and even national parks are all paid for with taxes. However, if there's less money to go around due to corruption, then the quality of all those things suffer. At that point, governments are left with one of two options. They can either raise taxes to pay for the things that should have been paid for with the money lost through corruption, or they can just let those services suffer. Either way, there are going to be some pretty upset people. Corruption is one of the biggest causes for people to think that a government is illegitimate. If you have corruption, people start to think that you're not trustworthy. However, that's not the only problem you could face. People need to feel that you belong as their leader. Otherwise, there's a chance that they will begin to see you as illegitimate. Illegitimate governments exist when the leaders are not given permission to rule by the people. Being an illegitimate government is a big problem for any would-be ruler. Think about governing like being the official in a sporting event. You are there to make sure everyone plays by the rules, and in turn, everyone has to do what you say. The problem is that when people start to think that you aren't enforcing the rules anymore, or are enforcing rules unfairly, they may start to look for a new referee. In this lesson, we looked at the effect that crime can have on government. We learned that since the beginning of organized society, crime has been a real factor for governments to contend with. While it doesn't count for much by itself, petty crime can quickly add up to not only cause concerns about a government's dedication to protecting people, but also lead to reduced tax revenues. Corruption also challenges the legitimacy of a government, since people are less likely to think that a government is capable if it is misusing their tax dollars. This is even truer if others escape the rules that everyone else is held to. In fact, the people may even start to wonder why they allowed you to rule in the first place. Finally, all of this can create an environment in which the government loses its legitimacy completely, meaning people begin to look for new voices to lead.